All right, so today we're going to also look at percent. And percent is over 100. If you looked at the little percent sign that's right here, you can see the little stick and two zeros. Well, that's like one, two zeros, 100, right? So out of 100, something over 100. Percent means over 100. How many hundredths over 100? So right here, this is 13 over 100, or 13%. All right? This is 27 hundredths, or 27 over 100, or 27%. Now, right here, this is, when we got this, it gets a little more complicated, right? This is one whole, all right, and 12 hundredths. So anytime you got one whole, that's like 100%. Right here, this is like three wholes, 300%. So what we can do is we can kind of remember a rule to move the decimal places 2 places to the right. So here's my decimal. I want the percent. I'm going to go 2 places to the right, which will give me 102%. Right here, I'm going to move my decimal 2 places to the right. All right? So I'm going to end up at 0.1. All right? So we're moving 2 to the right. 1, 2, 345%. Moving 2 places to the right. That's 123.8%. So when we're taking our decimal and making it a percent, we're moving 2 to the right. 34.67%. Moving 2 to the right. 100.3%. All right? Now, if we're going to go opposite, we're going to go from a percent to a decimal, we're going to move it 2 to the left. So this right here, 27% means 25 out of 100, right? 25 out of 100. So if I move that 2 to the left, I get 0.25. 1, 2. The decimal's in front of the 2. 34%, it's 34 over 100, right? And I'm going to move that decimal 2 to the left. All right, so 0.34. The decimal starts right here, 1, 2, okay, right in front of the 3. 14%, same way. 1, 2, I'm left with 0.14. I'm going to move that decimal. It's right after the 39, so it's going to go 1, 2, 2 spots to the left, 0.39. Decimal's right here, 114%, so if I'm going to move it to the left to make it a decimal, I get 1.14. Move it to the left, and it's going to make it even more. So where you have these empty spaces, we're going to fill them with zeros. So 2 zeros, and then the 0, 1. 2 to the left. So I have those 2 empty spaces. So now I'm going to fill them with zeros. I get 0. The 2 zeros, and then the 0, 2, 1. 0, 2, 1. 1, 2, where you got the empty space there, we're going to fill it with a 0, and then the 1, 3. Move it 2 to the left. So 100% is one whole. 2 to the left, 0.546. All right. So this one again, if it got cut off on you, sorry, we're moving it 2 to the left. Fill those empty spaces with zeros. So we got 0, 0, and then our 0, 1. 0, 1. All right. Percents, if we're going to convert a fraction to a percent, what we got to do first is we got to convert the fraction to a decimal, and then we can convert it to a percent. And we're going to convert it to a percent by moving it to the right. Right? So move right 2. Right? So 7 divided by 8. That fraction, remember, when we're converting it to decimals, means divide. So we got our 7 divided by 8 is 0.875. Well, if I want to make it a percent, I'm going to move it 2 to the right. So that's 87.5. Move it 2 to the right. Now, besides moving it 2 to the right, our 7 divided by 8, we can move it 2 to the right, or we can times by 100. 87.5. It's the same as moving it 2 to the right. Remember, this is 1 whole, and then 3 divided by 4. So 1 whole point, 3 divided by 4 is 0.75. Now, if you don't like doing that, you can hit your alpha y equals. We can hit our 1 whole, 3/4. And that gives us 7/4. 7 divided by 4 is 1.75. All right, so there's different ways we can do this. Now I move my decimal 2 to the right to make it a percent, or times 100. Right? 175%. So to do that, we can move 2 to the right or multiply by 100. Right? 1 divided by 4. 1 divided by 4 is 0.25. 0.25. Move it 2 to the right, we get 25%. Here I got 2 wholes, and then 1 divided by 20, 0.05. 0.05. So if I want to turn this into a percent, I got to move this 2 to the right, and I got 205%. 3 wholes, and then 7 divided by 100. We also know that this is 7 is in the hundredths place, right? 2 over. This is the hundredths place. That's 7 over 100. So if I move this 2 to the right, it's 307%. 5 divided by 8, we get 0.625. Move it 2 to the right, 62.5%. All right? So if you need to watch this video a couple times, if you run into it, it says convert a fraction to a percent and you forget, come back to this video and watch these examples again. All right? You can do that. These videos will be here for you. Next, we're going to go backwards. Convert that percent to a fraction. So we're going to turn this into a decimal. So that means we're going to move 2 to the left. All right? And then we're going to convert it back to a fraction. All right? By using our place values. And I'll show you. So 57%. We're going to move this to the left. So we're starting right here. 1, 2. That's 0.57. That 7 is in the hundredths place. That's 57 over 100. 13. We're going to move it over to the left. 1, 2. 0.13. That's 13 over 100. 0.3. We're going to move that to the left. 1, 2. Fill the empty spaces with zeros. So we got 0.003. That 3 is in the thousandths spot. Tens, hundredths, thousandths. So thousandths, 3 over 1,000. Just like the first video. We're going to move this 2 to the left. So I got 1.47. So 1 whole and 47. So 1 whole is right here. That's a 1 whole. 47 over 100. The 7's in the hundredths spot. We're going to convert this to a decimal. We've got to move it to the left too. So I got 2.03. So I got my 2 wholes and then 3 over hundredths spot over 100. 0.5, we're going to move it to the left too. So I got 0.005. Fill these blank spots with zeros. So that's 5 over tenths, hundredths, thousandths, 5 over 1,000. Well, how many times is 5 going to 5? Once. How many times is 5 going to 1,000? So if you're having trouble with that, we can also do this. Alpha, this green button, y equals, enter. We can type in 5 over 1,000 and see how it reduces it for us. 1 over 200. So 5 goes in the 1,000 200 times. All right, so we can reduce it when you can. Over here we got 57.5%, move it to the left to turn it into a decimal. So we're trying to turn this into a decimal. So I'm left with 0.575. All right, so that's tenths, hundredths, thousandths. That's 575 over 1,000. Well, maybe that can be reduced. So alpha y equals 575 over 1,000. 23 over 40. So we got 23 over 40. Nice. Okay. Now, last one. So move the percent to a decimal. We got to move it to the left. All right. So we got 0.104. And then we got 104 tenths, hundredths, thousandths. So 104 over 1,000. Alpha y equals, enter. So that's 104 over 1,000. We'll see what we got. 13 over 125. Okay, so there we go. That's the part one. And the next part, I'm going to go over some story problems. How do we read certain percents when we're trying to solve for x? So that's part 3. So hopefully, if you need to look back, you got part 1 for fractions to decimals. You have part 2, fractions to decimals to percents, and percents back to decimals to fractions. So that's part 2. And then part 3 is how to solve equations with percents. Okay? So use these videos, go back to them, watch them again if you get stuck on a problem. Ask me for help and I'll help you. Okay? Take care.